Hi, I'm Brian Borzakowski at the Canadian Business Leadership Forum, and I'm here with David Shaw, the founder and CEO of Knightsbridge Human Capital Solutions. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
So this is a broad question, but what makes a good leader?
Well, what makes a good leader are obviously the traits that are things like vision, the ability to create a compelling, when I talk about vision, create a compelling vision that people want to follow. But I think that's a fundamental aspect of leadership. The other piece is obviously your ability to be adaptable. And the adaptability is, you know, you're always going to have a shifting labor force. You're going to have a shifting set of management positions. You're going to have a shifting set of people that you've got to lead. And a true leader is one who can understand the type of people that they're in fact leading, and in a lot of cases make some adjustments to their style.
Now, leadership has changed over the years. How has it? What's a leader look like today compared to 30 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hierarchical approach to organizations now is really disappearing. So you're seeing much flatter organizations. So as a result, you've got CEOs or people in leadership positions who've got a much broader set of direct reports. So you've got to be able to manage on that. I think the other piece that's clearly changing is the ability of people to be much more transparent in the way in which they deal with organizations, with their constituents, such as shareholders, with their customers. I think transparency is clearly a motivator for leaders to understand what's going on around them. I mean, it used to be that you could be reasonably self-contained inside of your own company. But in today's world, people know about you a lot sooner than maybe you know about what's going on in your company. And you see great examples of P&G about a month ago had a huge problem with their Pampers, and it gets into the medium, and they've got to respond. And so the good leaders are the ones who recognize that the world's changing around them, and they got to be transparent about what's going on.
So, how has technology facilitated the leadership evolution?
Well, I think you've got much more access to information, obviously, and access to information means then you've got to recognize what is priority information and what is stuff that you can sift off to the side. The ability for most companies to recognize that technology is going to be an impactor both in terms of how they run the business, but also in terms of how people view their business is going to be critical.
Well, I find it interesting that Steve Jobs, he's become famous now for responding to emails that just customers send to him.
Yeah.
Is that something we would have seen years ago, that someone would have responded with a letter maybe back to a customer, or is that the way the new leader, the new CEO is evolving, that they're going to be interacting directly with their customers?
No question they're going to be interacting directly with their customers. And I'll give you a great example. I was just speaking about Calin Romanescu in terms of the Air Canada business and how he's managing it. But I sent him an email after I'd finished this speech yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock to tell him that I was going to use some of the material from the Globe article in my speech. 20 minutes later, I got a response from him. Now, I don't know him. But he responded to me. And so there's two things about that. One is the instantaneousness of communication. But second of all is, in my view, that is a true leader as well. Somebody who takes the time to respond back to customers because he knows I'm a customer or potentially going to be a customer. And so that was a great example.
You also mentioned businesses have to think globally. Why is that important, and how can a company do that?
A lot is going to do with your workforce. Your workforce is going to demand that you are taking a look at the social challenges that are facing the world today. So whether it's water, like RBC, or whether it's something else, you've got a population inside of your workforce that is very clear about wanting to know that you are socially and environmentally conscious about what's going on. So that's the That's the social side of going global. The other side is, you know, I've lived in a number of countries in my life. When I worked with PepsiCo, I was in Turkey, I was in, you know, the Far East and Australia. And what it allows you to do as a leader is it allows you to get a different perspective. Because you've got to recognize that not everything is done the way you want it done in North America. And so, you know, your ability to recognize culture and that people do have a different way of doing things and that people do have a point of view is important for a leader.
Well, thanks very much for joining us.
You're more than welcome.
I'm Brian Borzakowski at the Canadian Business Leadership Forum.